Boom. All right, Marissa, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me what you're doing right now, where you're at, what you'd like to be doing. Give me some background.
So I just graduated from Lindenwood University. It's right outside of St. Louis, Missouri, with an acting BFA and a minor in graphic design. Right now I'm currently working as a photographer at a summer camp, so I'm back in the dorm rooms, but I'm currently on the look for a full-time like design position. I have some like part-time acting gigs lined up when I go back home, but looking for something full-time to carry me through those. So yeah, just trying to figure out like kind of where I land in the design world as I've been job searching. I initially got like a minor instead of like a double major because the like guy that I was talking to when I was first looking at colleges was like, oh, you don't need like the degree, you just need the portfolio. But then my college career was mostly online with like COVID and stuff. So I was like, I just feel like I need more help with my portfolio than like just doing the online stuff. So yeah.
Gotcha. So you're gigging right now. You got a lot of stuff going on. That's
Yeah.
cool. Awesome. That's good though, like, listen, everyone's got to hustle when they're younger. I did it. I worked at a gas station. I worked at a paintball field. I did a bunch of stuff, right? I did what I had to do, basically. I think that's what I know at some point I had two jobs, but I don't remember the jobs, probably because I pushed them out of my head. But okay, so there is a little bit of truth in that idea that you don't necessarily need the degree, you need the portfolio. Yeah, that can be the case at times. It's good that you have a minor in graphic design, and it's good that you have a major in something that is associated with the arts. I think just like really quickly looking at your portfolio website, it's nice that you kind of gravitate to working with things like Lupine and what is it? Lupine?
Something
Something
like
like
that.
that. And kind of like shows and stuff like that. What are you using for your portfolio?
I actually built this from scratch.
Ooh,
Yeah.
hey, no, thank you. No. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
We'll just jump right into it. There's a lot of stuff here. And how you are presenting this stuff is not ideal, we'll say. This already you can kind of see like what maybe you can kind of understand what I'm gonna get at, whereas like this little sliver here is so small, it's
Yeah.
so tiny, and it's not really giving me the details, or it's not giving me enough, like I'm not getting the image, like I'm just getting this little tiny sliver. And so the first thing that I will say is, one, let's get you out. Listen, thumbs up for coding your own thing. Great job. Let's never do it again. All
Yeah.
right.
It
It's
was like
it's
a
been a,
project that I started when I wanted to learn how to code. And then as I've grown, I was like, oh, I need to move away from this soon.
and hey, listen, I think it's a great exercise. I think it is great learning to do that.
Yeah.
Um, because I would say, can now go into working with something like a Webflow or a Framer, because you understand the language, HTML and CSS. You understand like how to tweak that stuff and what it does and all that stuff. So, that's a great skill to have, right? For your portfolio, for your website, I would recommend maybe using something that's pretty straightforward, like even Adobe Portfolio could be fine. If you really, really want to get into the nitty gritty and jump into Webflow and Framer, go for it. But there's a learning curve there a bit. But let's get a tool. Let's get something that kind of makes these decisions for you, like that
Yeah.
kind of has all this stuff set out, right? Then the next step that I would do is let's take a survey of all your work. Web design, products. I want you to pick your 4 best projects, right? And I want you to just work on getting those to be really, really good case studies, kind of similar to this, where you have like, you have a couple of you have a lot of images explaining, showing the design, showing the packaging, whatever it may be. I think we need a little bit more description. We need to build a little bit more story behind these projects, right? So tell me about this, the true American game. Why did this project come up? Why did you do this? Why did you choose these design decisions? Things like
Okay.
what happened? Did we both get disconnected?
Yeah, probably. It's definitely my dorm Wi-Fi. It's just
Might have
not the
been
best.
mine. Where did you lose me?
Explaining more about like color choices and all that stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So you want to walk through, you just want to walk through your thinking, why you made these decisions,
Okay.
why the project came up, stuff like that. Okay. And when you're going through and selecting these projects, right? Like let's just say your four best, you want to do 5 or 6, go for it. But like, 4 seems to be a good just, starting point. Try to think about the jobs that you want, right? What are the things that you like to do? What are the things you want to continue to do? Because you want to gear this work towards the jobs that you want to apply for, right? So if it is more in theater or in the arts or something like that, then it's probably good to have, those first 2 projects maybe be this book from Lupine or something else, or about the Rolling Stones, or about a show or something like that. And then maybe it would be helpful to have some of the web design work as well, to show that you have a little bit of versatility and interest in that stuff, right?
Mhm.
When it comes to this other stuff, and this is more of a question to you, things like video editing, right? Yes, you have a degree and you've studied acting. Ask yourself, do you really want to video edit, right? And that's something you don't have to make a decision now necessarily, but like, when I was younger, I did a lot of stuff like this. I did photography. I worked as a photographer for a couple years while I was in school and out of school, right? After a while, I said, I'm tired of doing this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather just focus on graphic design, right? So think about that, because what I would say is, yes, you can do it. You can tell people you do it. It doesn't need to be on your portfolio website,
Okay.
because it starts to dilute this idea of where your focus is. It starts to kind of get a little bit messy. And as someone who is, if you apply to a graphic design job and, they're thinking you're a graphic designer and they see stuff like video editing and animation, starts to kind of get muddy of the idea of, who they're looking at and what they do. It kind of just, I don't know how to articulate it. And it's like when people see that, when they see too many options, they start to think that you are that master of none necessarily, right?
Mhm.
I know that's not the case, right? Like I'm damn good with a camera. I can video edit, but my focus, what I master, what I like to think I'm the best at, is graphic design, right? And
Mhm.
so I don't show any of that other stuff. I don't show my photography. I have a separate website for it, or I only post it on Instagram. It doesn't have to be on your graphic design portfolio, your portfolio that is geared towards that, right? Doesn't mean you have to take it off, just hide it. Just don't have it be on your first page. Don't have it be as a navigation item. Like it could just be a page on your website that never has a link to it, whatever. And if you need to pull it up, you know where it is.
Okay.
So yeah, that's some of the things I would think about. So get your work on a portfolio tool that is going to make it a lot easier for you. Let's figure out some of the, your top projects, and let's start to really add to those and build those up. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, any questions, specific questions you want to go over, things that you want to talk about, that you might have on your mind?
Yeah, so for like building up like the descriptions and stuff, like a lot of it is just like random things that I like saw a prompt and just like wanted to design it, or literally just like in school they're like, just make this. So like how would you recommend like going about beefing that up?
So one, I think it's always helpful to understand like a little bit of background on the subject, right? So we can look at Lupine, we can look at the True American, you can look at Homeward Bound, you can look at Braves Gardens, whatever it may be, and give, like, start with like, what is this thing? Who are they? Who are these things, right? What are these things? Lupine is a historically famous story written by blah 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 blah. Right. And because this might have been like either a self-initiated project or for class or something like that, you could be transparent about it. Hey, listen, this was an assignment that I wanted to kind of use as an opportunity to develop my skills in editorial design or whatever it may be, and try to explore what Lupine would be, how Lupine would look in as a contemporary book that was published in 2023 or something like that, right? I think like talking, and then from there, it doesn't have to be, it could be 3 sentences, whatever. From there, start to get into why you decided to pick black and gold. Why did you use these floral components? What about Lupine, or what about parts of the story made you choose these design decisions? This S is very distinct. Was there a decision, and why? Was there something about Lupine, the story, that made you want to use a typeface that has such a distinct S and stuff like that? Things you can kind of talk about, like a little brief story background about the subject, and then you want to get into more of your like thinking and process and why you made these decisions.
Okay, cool.
What else you got for me? It doesn't have to be portfolio related necessarily if
Yeah.
you have questions outside of that, but
So you were like, I think from some of your videos, you like recently turned freelance from like working corporate. Is that correct?
yes, this is my first year completely freelance, first year and a half already. I've always freelanced, but I've always done that with a full-time job.
So I have kind of like dug a lot of research into freelancing, and I'm thinking I'm like not wanting to start off with that right away, as I'm basically like freelancing myself in the acting world as well, and that seems like a lot to do both. So from your like corporate experience, like do you have any advice for like doing stuff in that world?
Well, I think it's a good idea not to do freelance design at the beginning. I wouldn't recommend it. Advice when it comes to like working a full-time job, or advice in getting a full-time job, like,
Yeah, all the above.
so it comes, so my belief, and the thing that I advocate for a lot, is like you have to have a solid portfolio website, or portfolio presentation, portfolio website. They're all the same to me. Like, you have to have that tool buttoned up, looking good, high quality work, descriptions, stuff like that. That's super important, because that's the thing that you're kind of being judged on, right? It doesn't really matter like what you look like, what you sound like. Well, what you sound like in your writing is important, and how you describe your work. But on everything else, like, it comes down to the quality of the work and a little bit of experience and stuff like that. So like that to me is like the thing that gets you in the door, right? That's your foot. And then you're gonna, meet people. You're gonna have conversations about your work, and you're gonna talk about the design decisions that you make. And so the next part of that is being able to kind of have those soft skills. You're an actor, you should be able to kind of nail that part, because it's talking with people and, being able to present yourself, it was funny because like the first couple of years, I interviewed a lot. And after my first couple of jobs, I ended up at some pretty big companies that every other week I would get some kind of recruiter messaging me and saying, hey, we have this role open. Would love to have you, to chat more about the details of it and see if you're interested. And like at that time, I wasn't even looking to really move jobs. I was happy with the job I had, but I knew that if I took these interviews, it would be practice for me. And so I took like 2 interviews, 3 interviews sometimes a week just to practice interviewing, just to practice presenting myself and telling them what I've been doing, my responsibilities, and how I've been helping the team out, whatever it may be. And that really helped because then when it was time for me to actually move to a new job, I was already, ready to go, buttoned up. Like I had practiced what I was going to say for, weeks in advance and stuff like that. And so that's kind of really important as well. So that's kind of like a bit on like getting any sort of job, whether it's just full time. There is a bit of a difference between like working in-house at a company or a brand versus like working in an agency. Your time, how you spend your time, and your balance that's going to vary between organizations. And as someone who is freelance acting in between some of that stuff, it's definitely like kind of on you to evaluate how much time you want to potentially give to a full-time job versus being able to also freelance and act as well. Maybe it would be helpful, and this is a question. I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but if the freelancing in the acting realm is going well, or it's consistent, it might be helpful to continue to freelance graphic design because you're going to have more time for that. Whereas you get a full-time job, it's going to be 5 days a week, 9 to 5 most likely. So something to consider. If it's an opportunity, if you have that situation where you're able to, hey, live at home with your parents, still freelance act, and when you're not acting, still work on your graphic design and stuff like that, that's not necessarily a bad decision either,
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. I think like with freelancing, so if that was to be an option, right? With freelancing, I think it is something that I like to personally like. What area are you in? Where do you live?
Right outside of St. Louis.
St. Louis. Okay. St. Louis, Missouri. What's St. Louis? St. Louis is a major city. What's the city like there?
Like the city I live in, or St. Louis?
St. Louis. How far is that from you?
It's like half an hour to get to like the middle of the city.
Okay, so something that I do like to recommend with just like in the last couple of reviews I've spoken with, I think it's really important, right, to at this younger kind of part of your career is to put yourself in a situation where you're going to learn from people who have been doing it for a while. So again, while this freelance acting might be going on, it's a little consistent. A great idea, I think, would be to try and go find an internship at a design studio somewhere within the city or wherever, and learn from people who've been doing it for a while, right? Because I can tell you, hey, yeah, sure, you might have this consistent thing going on over here, and it might actually be helpful to freelance, but you're going to be freelancing in a bubble. You're going to be freelancing. You're not going to, you're going to be like looking at stuff here and there. You're going to be like, oh, I like this. I'm going to try and do this. And then I'm going to go try and find a friend or, someone within my network and do graphic design work for them. Right. But you're not really going to be learning. You're going to be learning how to like take orders from someone and make them visual. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be really helpful to go and find like an experienced design studio or, design company or somewhere, get an internship, hey, I'm available 2-3 days a week. Maybe it's Monday, Tuesday or whatever, or just, let them know, hey, I'm acting. I want to continue in graphic design. I just want to be able to, just let you guys know that like my days won't always be the same, but like I know I can give you 2 or 3 days here and there, whatever. See if that works, because you're gonna learn a lot from them, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's gonna be really important. It may not be paid, it may be paid, I don't know, but I still think that's gonna be super valuable and it's gonna teach you a lot, rather than just like kind of staying in your solo bubble, trying to practice and do these things. I think you'll learn a lot more in a situation like that.
Yeah, for sure. That has, even in my like job search, I have still been like applying to different like internships as well. I was like, I don't care if it's not like the best money right now. Like I just want to get more experience of all the different things.
Exactly. I mean, hey, listen, if you can live at home with your parents as long as possible and take gigs when you can, why not?
Yeah, can't live at home, but I am couch surfing right now, so still don't have rent.
Couch surfing, hey, there you go. Keep the rent low and, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Any other questions or anything like that you want to chat about?
I think that was mostly it. Just, yeah, that was been super helpful. Thank you so much.
No problem, Marissa. It was lovely to meet you. You have my email. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them over. And after this, in about 5 minutes or so, you'll get an email from me with just a few questions. If you can fill those out, that will let me know where I should send the notes and link to this recording. Okay.
Okay, cool.
All right. Nice to meet you, Marissa. Have a great rest of your night. Okay.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.